Welcome to Excel Magic Trick number 1005. Hey, if you want to download this workbook 1003 to 1006, click on the link below the video. Hey, this video 1005 is a follow-up on 1003 and 1004. In all these videos, we have some name. There's a column with duplicates, and we want to either conditionally format or look something up given a certain occurrence. So here we want the second occurrence of fill. We want to get that 0.58 rate and deliver it to this cell. If I say select the third instance of fill, I want to get that 0.88 and return it to the cell. Back in 1003, we had a sorted column, and the formula was a little bit easier. We used match and index. All right, so what are we going to do? Well, we have duplicates. So we're going to build inside our formula. We'll see two ways to do this. It's an array formula that at its heart will have an array of relative positions, right? Because that's relative of this list. That's relative position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So fill is sitting either at relative position 5, 7, or whatever this last one is, 12. So inside our formula, this is a formula element that builds an array of relative positions. And for many lookup formulas, this is required. Now row, it'll tell you row 2 or 3 or 4. We are giving that argument right there more than one value, so the row function will spit out more than one answer. Now this is a function argument array calculation. Now right now that would give me 2, 3, 4, 5. In fact, if I highlight this in F9, you can see it gives me that array of row numbers, which is not what I want. I want relative positions, so I'm going to subtract row. Now notice, this is a bunch of numbers, an array of numbers, and this is a single number. But this single number, 2, will be subtracted from all of those. F9, you can see that gives me 1 too few, so you add 1 back in. Now this is a good way to go in most cases when you're creating an array of relative positions. If you were to insert rows up here and push everything down, this would still deliver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. All right, we don't want all of them. We want just the ones that are equal to fill. So I'm going to, inside the if, build an array logical test. I'm going to say, hey, that whole range, are you equal to fill? Right? So this is going to give an array of trues and falses, F9, Control Z. That right there is all the relative positions. The trick is we want to filter all of these relative positions. So I'm going to leave this value if false out. That way, because we left it out, it will insert falses for any time it finds a relative position that's not equal to fill. This little formula element is F9 filtered only the relative positions that match fill. Now, remember our goal is to use index to look up the third occurrence of fill. So we'll put this array of falses and relative positions into either the small function or the aggregate function. And we'll say, hey, small, give me the third occurrence, which in this case will be 12. Control Z. So I'm going to put this inside of small. Now note it. Whoops. Small. All right, so there's that array. We've already seen that it delivers an array. Now I'm simply going to say which one. Boom, that one right there, the third occurrence. Now this is an array formula. Anytime you have an array operation in the logical test argument of the if, it doesn't matter where this if sits, whether it's in the aggregate or index, some of those functions that can handle array operations, or the small, which cannot handle array operations unless you do Control-Shift-Enter. So that's going to trump whatever outer function this is. We must enter this with Control-Shift-Enter. Now notice open the formula bar, those curly brackets got added in automatically by Excel. Now we use Control-Shift-Enter to tell Excel this was an array formula, but Excel put those curly brackets in at the beginning and end to tell us that, yes, it understood that this is an array formula. That's the relative position that will go into index. When I change this to 2, boom, there it is, 7. So now I can simply do index. These are the rates I'm looking up, comma, that whole big thing right there is just delivering a relative position. Control, Shift, and Enter. Now, index, if we had an array operation in the array argument, could handle an array formula without Control, Shift, Enter. But remember, this if is trumping everything outside of it. All right, so we could avoid Control-Shift-Enter if we took this little bit right here, and I'm going to do Control-CC to open up the, I'm going to clear this, Control-C. I've loaded up the clipboard there. That's, in essence, our filter, right? And what are we after? What are we filtering? We're filtering row numbers, so I'm going to copy that. I've carried these two pieces over here. Now I'm going to come over and do my index. And what am I looking up? These values right here, comma. And instead of using the small inside of the row number, I'm going to use aggregate. Aggregate's new in 2010. If you don't have 2010 or 13, you don't have this function. And no way. Functions 14 to 19 can handle array operations. Everything earlier than 14 cannot. So I'm going to say small, which is 15, comma. I'm going to get a divide by 0 error. So I want to ignore error. So that's a 6. And no way. That beautiful argument right there can handle array operations without doing Control-Shift-Enter. Open parentheses and paste our formula element that creates an array of relative positions. Close parentheses because we need to do the subtraction and the adding before we divide. Open parentheses. We have an equal sign in here. We want to force that equal sign before we do the divide, and no way. Check this out. Instead of the if, we have the relative positions in the numerator, the condition in the denominator. When you F9, the divide by zeros are filtering out. That's different than the if, which uses the false to filter out. Now we have a 5, a 7, and a 12. That 6 right there will help our formula avoid those divide by 0, Control-Z. And since we have a 15 comma, we just do our K, which is small. Which one? That 2. Now I'm going to close parentheses on the aggregate. F9, remember, it's just doing just what the small did. It's just delivering a relative position. Control-Z. Close parentheses and enter. No Control-Shift-Enter. Now, let's check this out. If I get the first one, we got Phil. If I were to take Sue, there it is that, where is Sue? 58. I take the second one, looks like 18. I take the third one, all the way down here, 0.81. All righty, we'll see you next video. Hey, if you like the content of this video, the upcoming book I have, Control-Shift-Enter, it should be out in July sometime. The content of the video you just saw is straight from Chapter 4 in this book. All right, see you next video.